Hello everyone, happy Friday. We are here for a little Facebook Live video about SQUILT music this Friday afternoon. So I hope everybody is doing well, and welcome if you're here on a replay. I will remind you that if you leave a comment in the comments, then I am happy to answer it. Or Mary, the creator of SQUILT Guides, could also answer that, because the comments can be left even after the video has happened. So feel free to leave those. Hi, Jenny. All right, so today we're going to talk about SQUILT, and I want to show you the guide in particular that Mary offered me is this one, the Modern Era, which I picked the Modern Era because it had things in it I recognized, and I feel like modern was going to be fun for me. And I was right, because I already really like it. And Mary from Homegrown Learners, who actually has created the SQUILT guides, has actually sponsored our time today on Facebook so that I can share with you how I'm using this with my family and how I designed little booklets for my kids and kind of what's going on in our house this fall so that we can use the SQUILT music. All right, so let's get started by introducing myself in case some of you here aren't familiar with my house and my family. Hi, Lindsay. So it's so nice. I have some familiar faces on here. So I know you guys know this. I am a homeschooling mom of 4 children. My oldest will actually be going into high school this year, and I have homeschooled her from kindergarten. So, wow, that means I will be entering my 10th year of homeschooling. My other kids will be going into 7th grade, 5th grade, and 3rd grade. I have 2 girls who are the oldest, and then 2 boys down at the bottom. And I have a Facebook page, which you're watching this on, and it's associated with my blog. So I have a blog at notbefore7.com where I write about what we're doing in our homeschool. Oh, yay, Mary, you're gonna have a high schooler too. Oh, it's like a whole new world. So if you follow my blog, then you know last year I was studying music and the orchestra and the instruments, mainly for my 10 and 8-year-old, because they hadn't done that. And I was really curious about how to follow up on that this year, what to do. And of course, at that point, I didn't know about SQUILT. So I will let you know that Mary already has an instrument guide all ready for you. And you don't have to do what I did and make your own. So you could actually get that. But I was trying to figure out, like, how am I going to follow up with that? And one of my goals was not to do my own thing again, like come up with all the resources. Sometimes I really like pulling together my own thing, and other times I just need something done for me. And since I spent a lot of time kind of doing my own thing last year for music, I was really ready this year to have something done for me. And that is how SQUILT is going to be the perfect answer. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the guide. SQUILT, if you're not familiar with it, stands for Super Quiet, Uninterrupted Listening Time. And the SQUILT guides are designed by Mary Prather, who is on this Facebook Live, so you can ask her questions. And Mary, you can correct me if I have any of this wrong, but she was an elementary school teacher, music elementary school teacher. And SQUILT was something she used in her music classroom. And she has now brought it home as a homeschooling mother and has written these guides to help other homeschooling moms do the same thing in their homeschool, which is fantastic. It kind of reminds me, I was a 5th grade teacher for a while, and we used to do deer time, drop everything and read. So it kind of reminds me of kind of like deer time in the music classroom. SQUILT time, super quiet, uninterrupted listening time. Okay, I just saw that come up and I was like, oh, am I saying it wrong? No, I'm saying it right. Okay, so I have some notes here and I don't want to forget to say them. All right, so there are several different types of guides. One is by composer, and there are 4 composers to choose from, and you could select that way. I went ahead and selected by era, and I chose the Modern Era. You could also get the Classical Era, the Baroque Era, or the Romantic Era. I went ahead and went with Modern, and in each of these guides, Mary has done the work for you. This is what I love. And has picked 10 great pieces of music for you to listen with your kids. So the first lesson was The Entertainer. And what you're going to do is you are going to start by listening. You're going to train your kids how to sit quietly and listen. Now, if you have little ones, you know, if they want to color while they're listening or whatever, fine. But they're just going to listen to the piece of music. And then when they listen a second time, you're actually going to start learning about the grammar and the terms that go with music appreciation so that they can listen for specific things. So, for example, and it's all here, ready to go for you. You're going to talk about the dynamics of the music. I have this mirror image, so if you notice my fingers going the wrong direction, it's because I'm a mirror image, okay? So that you guys can read this correctly. The rhythm, the tempo, the instrumentation, like what do you hear the strings? Do you hear the woodwinds? So that's what I really love, is that this in particular is a great follow-up on what I did with the orchestra last year. So this has been very helpful. And then the mood. How does this music make you feel? And my kids had a hard time, and I would ask them like, well, what does it make you feel like doing? Like if I told you to stand up and do an action while you heard this music, what would that look like? And that kind of thing, you know, to kind of draw that out. Oh, thanks, Mary. It is hard to do it backwards, I have to tell you. It is honest. Now, I have a younger guy too. So if your kids aren't quite ready for this, there is a sheet in here. And this is what my 8-year-old has opted to do, where he can just draw as he's listening, and he can draw what he hears. And then he still participates in our discussion. Now, in case you're going, I don't know what music dynamics are. I have no idea what you're talking about. That's okay. Mary has that covered for you too. So in here, you actually will have those terms defined. So you have the dynamics, you have tempo, you have rhythm, so that you can talk to your kids intelligently about all of these things. It's all in the teacher's guide for you. Tempo. So they're all here, different types. And I mean, you could even act these out. I mean, so many things you could do. But what I really like too is she has notes for the particular songs about those categories. So if you're thinking, okay, well, I know what dynamics is, but am I going to miss something in the song? She has the notes for you. So when we did the entertainer, I had notes in here to know what to talk about. So for rhythm, she talks about syncopated rhythm, and then has a definition in here so that you can talk about it sounding a little offbeat. So that's all provided for you too. You're not even going to have to come up with it as you're listening and trying to figure it out with your kids. It's in the guide. There are wonderful discussions that you can have. All the information's there. And it's all hyperlinked. So while I printed it for myself, because I'm kind of like a paper girl when I'm planning, sorry, coming in sideways, it's actually all hyperlinked in a PDF. So I also have my iPad available. I have it right here. And you can see that when you're going to listen to the entertainer, all you have to do is hit that link, and you're going to go to a YouTube channel. And I had it just hooked up to a Bluetooth speaker, and we could listen to it that way. Or you could hook it up to your television and you could actually watch it if you wanted. So that worked perfectly. And then that is kind of the long and short of it. That's the lesson. You're going to listen and you're going to discuss the music and what you hear. What you do beyond that, she provides a lot of options, and you can kind of gauge what's going to work in your house, which is what I really love, because I tend away from open and go programs that are a little too rigid, and I can't make them my own because everything's laid out like Monday do this, Tuesday do this. I know some people really love that. I'm much more like lay it all out for me so that I can make it work for my family. So the basics are listening to the music and filling out the SQUILT sheet the second time you're listening, and having a discussion with your kids about the piece of music. I'm sorry, I'm looking for it, this one. So that's kind of the basics. And then you can do as much more with it as you would like. So for this particular piece, we had a lot of different ways to go listen to the entertainer. And it ended up being really interesting because when we were talking about what music we heard, we all heard the piano because that's what the entertainer was being played on. Well, Mary had provided links in there so that you could go listen to the entertainer played on classical guitar. I didn't have to go hunting for that. It was already in there. That was fantastic. My kids actually really liked that. And you could talk about the different sound. Now, I'm not saying you would do that all on the same day. You know, depending on the age of your kids, that might be what you do the next day, because her suggested plan is to spend 1 week on each piece. So this guide, The Modern Era, will take me through 10 weeks of music appreciation study. and of course throw in holidays and doctor's appointments and all that, we're looking at 12 to 13 weeks in a typical homeschool family, if you're anything like my typical. So you wouldn't have to do all that the first day. So then the next day, if you want to, you could say, hey, we're going to listen to the entertainer today. I want you to listen and see if you can tell what's different about it. You know, or if your kids are really little, you just tell them, like, we're going to hear it on the guitar today. And then, oh, this was so cool. She had it linked to hearing it on a pipe organ. Oh my gosh. Yeah, or a year. That was awesome. My kids don't see pipe organs. I mean, we talked about it briefly when we studied instruments last year, but then to hear this like happy piece, and we talked about how it sounded so much more like circus music almost like the monkey you could see dancing. I don't know, maybe that was just us, but it was just really fun to hear it on all these different instruments and talk about the changing mood when you hear it in a different way. And then she had it done by a whole orchestra, and that was cool. So we checked that out. She also included something in there where you could watch these colored piano keys. It was like a digital performance. You could visually see how someone would play it. And my kids got really into that. And they actually looked up more pieces of music that were using that play recording where you could see the design. It's a link in there. I forget what it was called. If you happen to remember what that was called, where you see the color keys, my kids really got into that too. And we ended up doing a whole bunch of other stuff with it. Now, I'm going to tell you one piece of the guide that I'm actually not using that other people go gaga over, and it's just not my thing, and that's notebooking pages. My kids aren't into, nor am I, doing notebooking. I love it in concept. And if you're into notebooking, you're going to love that there are notebooking pages all ready for you. And then I'm going to tell you how I'm using them a little differently. So she also has for each piece a notebooking page about the composer of the piece, and she has a link for you where you can go and read a little bit more about the composer, and you could have your kids record notes if you wanted to about the composer. So we did go read more about the composer. It's just I'm not a notebooking girl, so you're not going to find that in my kids' work. We just had a discussion about it. But I thought that was really nice because then the kids also get a visual. So it's sometimes just nice to have a visual of who you're listening to. And then she had a whole thing included with this one. This is still all on that lesson about ragtime and what ragtime music was. So she kind of explains that. And then there were 3 rags that you could go look up and listen to. There was the pineapple rag, the sugarcane rag, and the reflection rag. And so we listened to them to kind of figure out what was our favorite. So the kids learned so much from this one piece of music. Syncopated, they talked about all the other parts, you know, dynamics and things like that. But it was interesting to throw in a new term to them. They learned what ragtime music was. They heard different types of ragtime music. They looked up Scott Joplin and they learned a little bit about him. So I just felt like there was plenty in there for a week. You certainly wouldn't have to do it all, but there was plenty in there to learn over the course of a week, however you wanted to do it. And I'm going to show you my plan on how I am going to do it. So what I had my kids do is they each made up, I bought a binding machine this year, and I have to say I'm a little over the top with binding right now because that's what happens when you get a fun new thing to just stimulate life in your homeschool. You kind of jump in with both feet, and that's what I'm doing. So I had my kids design a cover the other day for, this is David's SQUILT, and what I did is these are all from Mary's PDF. So the kids can keep a repertoire of the music they go over. So obviously we still need to fill in the entertainer because we've done that one. And then I told you I wasn't going to use the notebooking pages for each individual composer. If I was, I would have those printed in here in order. What I decided to do instead, there was a notebooking page in here for the modern era because there was an entire section with links to just go learn more about the modern era of music and what kind of makes up the modern era. And she had some great YouTube videos in there that I actually watched the night before so that I could speak to my kids about it. And then I had them watch one at breakfast so they would know, like, hey, here's what we're diving into. And when we really kick it off more in the fall, we'll probably watch that again because it was just a nice overview of the modern era of music. So again, work was all done for me. Someone else found the video. But instead of taking notes on the modern era, my kids are going to write each of the composers on here and maybe write just a sentence about them. I feel like they would get a little intimidated by a full page because we don't do notebooking regularly, that I thought maybe just using this page and writing the artist and then just something cool about that composer would work really well for them. So I actually put in more than one page. Oh yeah, Michelle, that's what I really liked about it, is you could kind of do it however you wanted. Okay, 2 good questions. In terms of doing it once a week, you mean like take a lesson and spread it out over a month? I think you could do it however you wanted and whatever worked in your family. Part of the goal is to get to know the piece of music. So if you just keep it fresh though, like during that month, I would probably, for me, play it maybe twice a week so that they're not losing it. Like if you just did it every Monday and you're kind of like, hey, you know, maybe somewhere on Wednesday you just play it while you're eating breakfast. But again, whatever works for you. And that's what I really liked. And Mary is reiterating that you can customize it. She's giving you, like, it's like handing you the buffet and being like, look, the meal's all cooked and now you can eat it how you like. And that's what I always like. Donna, personally, I would also maybe do Meet the Instruments first. I don't think that's a requirement. So if you're just asking my opinion of a recommendation, I will say that I really like the fact that we did the orchestra last year because my kids are familiar. There you go. A whole new byline for you. My kids are familiar with woodwinds and percussions and strings and the pipe organs. So when I'm asking them to identify what they hear, they know what we're talking about. So I did not use SQUILT's Meet the Instruments, but I think it looks fantastic and it would have saved me a lot of time putting together my own thing. So personal opinion is I think that would work well. Is it a requirement or necessary? No, I doubt it. I'm sure there are a million people who have done the era guides or a certain composer without having done a study of the orchestra first. But personally, I see the benefit of my kids having done that. And I know SQUILT has a Meet the Instruments, so it would be perfect to do it that way. How long is a typical lesson? It is what you make it. I would say if you wanted to have short lessons through the week, within 10 minutes, you could very easily listen to the piece of music and then listen a second time and discuss the dynamics. And really, that is kind of the core, from what I'm gathering, that is kind of the core of the curriculum. Listening to the music and learning how to discuss it using the terms that musicians and composers use. So really, in 10 minutes, you could do that. There are a ton of extension activities that you could either do all in one day and dive in for 45 minutes, or do little pieces throughout the week or month or however you want to space it out. I am thinking of doing it on like my loop schedule. I'm trying to come up with my loop, so no one asks because I'm not there yet. But I think art is going to be on my loop and music is going to be in my loop. And so we will probably dive in deeper each time we hit it on the loop schedule instead of trying to do a little bit each day. But a lot of that's going to depend on your style and the ages of your kids. Exactly. Articulate, thoughtful listeners who appreciate the beauty in music. And really, you could do that after just listening and learning to discuss the music. And it's amazing what kids pick up. And then later, you know, they're in the car and they hear something and they're like, oh, Mom, that sounds just like the classical guitar we heard, you know, in that piece today. So I think that is something they'll keep carrying out with them. It was interesting because when we did the video for the modern era and it played all these different pieces of music for the modern era, there was one in particular that my son was like, this sounds just like Tom and Jerry. And we all kind of listened again and we were like, yeah, it really does. So I think it's a great era, you know, because the kids are going to be familiar with some of the tunes. So that was just really interesting, kind of a side note. But okay, so this is my kids' notebooks, kind of back to what we were doing. So this is where they're going to write the composers and just a little piece of information about it. And then what I did is I actually put all of these definition pages in their journal so they have them. And that way we can review them. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I love that. We haven't hit one yet, but it's interesting that my son heard that in the modern era video overview. So that's really fun. He's going to love when we get to that. So they have all of the definitions here, and we can review them as needed. They can refer back to them as needed until they have become literate with these words. I have a Canon and I hate it. I actually had these printed through a homeschool printing company, which I can drop a link to in here. So I had these printed out. Oh, these I didn't. The kids I actually printed here at home. I didn't have time to send them off anywhere. I sent a bunch of PDFs off to a printing company. But I have a Canon and I hate it because the ink is expensive and it runs out so fast. So I don't suggest it. I'd love a laser printer. So here's the instrumentation. So the kids have at their fingertips everything they need to feel confident. And then what I did is I printed 10 of these in a row. So that way they already have all 10 SQUILT forms to fill out for listening. The only thing I added in, because if you look at the extension activities, in those extension activities for one piece of music, and it was for I Got Rhythm, which, oh, I'm not going to quiz myself, but I love Gershwin. And yes, George and Ira Gershwin. And it's I Got Rhythm, and she goes in and discusses scat, which I think is really fun because it's something about jazz music, and I think it's a great term for the kids to know. And so there was this PDF where the kids could follow along with the song and then see where the scat occurs. So I did print this out. So I kind of looked ahead and I looked down the line and saw what was in the guide that I knew I would want them to have a copy in front of them. Now, granted, if you didn't do that and you just printed it for the day and gave it to them, that would be fine. But I happened to notice that and I appreciated that. And that's the kind of little gems that are with each of the pieces, is something in there that you can do more with if you want. And that's one. I love jazz. She has, Ella Fitzgerald singing one in there that I saw. And she also has a song, I Got a Little Rhythm, that is one of my favorite songs I used to play and dance with my 10-month-old. So I'm really excited about these pieces. And that's everything. So that's it. So they have all of the SQUILT forms, and then that's the end of their book. So I let them, and then we put a back cover that they picked, and that's just cardstock. So I let them each decorate it. My other son just did a little picture here, and my 12-year-old daughter, ironically, the one in art lessons who loves art, hers is still blank. She was like, I know I want white, but I haven't decided what I want to put on it yet. So she's going to do hers later. So I'm just going to keep them together. And when we go to listen, I can just scoop them up and have everything ready to go. And the kids can just open and have it at a new form. And I don't have to worry about printing. It's all already done. So that's kind of everything I wanted to share about how we're going to use them. Let me make sure there's nothing I forgot in here. No. Oh, I was going to say the ages of my kids. Now, I told you guys my kids are 14, 12, 10, and 8. I'm going to use this with my 12, 10, and 8-year-old. Now, the ages on the SQUILT guides say preschool through upper elementary, which I actually think is dead on. But I have a child going into 7th grade who is pretty content to do whatever we're doing. And we actually haven't done a lot of really great music appreciation until last year when we did the orchestra. We kind of did when my girls were really little, and then it kind of dropped off. And so she's content. She enjoys it. So my middle schooler will also be participating with us. She already did the first one with us, and she had a good time. So all that to say, it is geared for preschool through elementary. My 14-year-old has enough on her high school plate that she won't be doing it with us. But she got a lot of music appreciation when she was little, and I miss her, but she'll be doing her thing, whatever that is. Yeah, that's actually a great idea, Mary. And I think there are certain types of kids. In fact, my 12-year-old turns 13 in August. She's going into 7th grade. She would actually really enjoy leading it. My 14-year-old, soon to be 15, is actually very content to do her own thing. And so that's what she's doing. That's her thing. But my second daughter, who's going to 7th grade, she actually would probably really enjoy that. So I think that's a really great idea, that she could lead it for the boys, and then she could hit the links and lead the discussion. I think she'd have fun with that. So very good idea. All right, I'm going to take a sip of tea, and if there's any other questions, you guys can leave them here. I can totally see that. And I love anything. I have 4 kids, and I love anything that we could do together. We used to do everything together. It was when the oldest hit about 7th grade, it started to change. But I think that depends on your kid. But yes, I think this is really great for large families, and I could totally see preschoolers enjoying it as well. Oh, and I will say, I did show you guys the title, but I really fell in love with the modern era. I'm a big musical person, and I have to tell you, 2 musicals are in this one. So there is Mambo from West Side Story. I love West Side Story. The kids and I watched it last year, and so good. It's not like a kid musical, but my kids loved it. And the overture from Phantom of the Opera is in here by Andrew Lloyd Webber. And so I love anything that says you have to watch musicals as an extension activity, and you can bet we will be. Okay, good question. There is just the teacher's guide, which is this, SQUILT. And I printed it. You don't have to. It's a PDF. It actually works perfectly on the iPad. And all of the links are really easy to access. So if you're good with digital, you don't have to print this at all. But what I did is I printed the pages that my kids, sorry, the backlight makes this light not work right. What I did is I went through and printed the pages that I wanted my kids to have. So I made up the little student books, but it's really just printing pages from the PDF that comes in the teacher's guide. So you buy the PDF and you can do whatever you want with it. You could just leave it on your tablet format, or I just basically printed 10 of these, 1 for each piece of music, and then printed the definitions. And yeah, Mary is saying that there are moms who just curl up on the couch and they listen and they don't even have their kids record anything. So that's the nice thing. You can find, I'm a happy medium between, I'm not full notebooking person, but I do like the kids to have something to kind of record their thoughts. If you are good with just listening and discussing, perfect. You have everything you need and you can go that way. And if you love the notebooking pages and you want your kids to fill them with a little paragraph about different composers, you got that too. So you can kind of pick and choose. Somebody asked about a video. Oh, which totally reminds me, these are not video. This is a PDF that you purchase, and you can purchase in the SQUILT store. There is an affiliate link in the title of this video, and you can kind of shop around there. In the fall, Mary Prather, who is on this Facebook Live from Homegrown Learners, is going to be kicking off a live option. She is going to have a membership site where there will be live video that you can use with your kids. There'll be video you can do, and there's going to be, oh, Mary just put the link down there. Thank you. And so you can join that. So it'll have a membership fee, and there'll be like bonus things and all sorts of stuff that you can have. But that's how you could access video. That's going to be brand new, though, offered in the fall. So that's just something exciting we can all look forward to. Yay. All right. Those were good questions. If anybody has any others, I will take another sip of tea. And I'm sorry, my daughter's waving to me at the window. Right. Live webinars, listening calendars, all sorts of stuff on a membership site, which will be awesome to join in and see what's going on there. This is what I love about homeschoolers is like everybody brings their expertise to the table and we get to like learn from it and benefit from it. It's just a wonderful thing. So, all right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much, Mary, for being here to answer questions and kind of help out with the video. And if anyone has any other questions and you're watching this on replay, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Oh, you're welcome, Michelle. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Yeah, I totally agree, Mary. Thanks for being here, Lindsay and Donna. I know you're out there too. Thanks, Mary. And I will see you all out there in the internet world. All right. Bye, guys.